Hi everyone. In today's video, we will look into one of the core components of MuleSoft, dynamic evaluate. So the dynamic evaluate component evaluates an expression to select a database script and then executes the new script to generate a result. It is useful if you want to select the database script dynamically out of multiple DWL files based on some conditions passed at runtime. So this behavior enables you to dynamically select the script instead of hard coding it into the transform message component, which is a very expensive component used anywhere inside the flow, right? So we'll look into this dynamic evaluate component in a studio by creating one sample project. Okay, so I'm in studio. I just create one project. Let me call it as demo. Okay. Okay. So once you create a project, right? You create a flow. I'm just creating a sample flow, dragging and drop a listener, and the path I'm just naming it as demo, and I'm just creating one sample HTTP connector configuration. Right, and then I'm going to drag and drop a transfer message. Okay, so basically this dynamic evaluate, what it does, it picks and executes your transformation based on a particular evaluation criteria, right? So I'll just drag and drop. I'll tell you what I'm going to do it here, right? So before I will write any transformation here, let me drag and drop a dynamic evaluate component to the flow. Okay. So and finally, I'm just dragging one more transfer message to just return a payload as a response. That's it. Okay, in JSON format. All right. So I'm just renaming it as response message. Okay. This is dynamic evaluate component. Let's look into the configuration of it. Right. So there is parameter, there is expression, there is target value. Right. So now I'm going to go through the scenario of keeping multiple files within the local project folder. Okay. There is other way you can use this dynamic evaluate by keeping the files into a DB, right? Instead of keeping your files locally inside the folder. So that will cover once we go through the first scenario where we'll keep multiple files within the local folder, and then we'll run through the flow. Okay, and finally we'll just look into how the DB can be used, right? So now see, it throws an error. It is the expression field is a mandatory field, okay, based on which this component will execute, right? So what can be given in this expression? So it is a it is a criteria, okay, based on which your DWL will get evaluated, right? So instead of touching the payload, I'm storing it into a variable. Okay, I'm just naming it as dynamic evaluate. Okay, I'm just copying it. I'm just copying because I'll use that as a way, criteria here, expression. Right. All right. As you could see, the error went away. Now here is my transfer message, right? Okay. So as you could see, this is empty for now. Okay. So what we are going to do, we are going to evaluate based on the criteria. Okay, in this scenario, I'm going to pass query params. Okay, let's consider I'm a student. Okay, and I want to browse through the universities available at whatever locations and the courses provided by the university, each universities, right? So I'm going to have a query parameter. I'm going to use that query parameter to pick the appropriate DWL file, right? So I'm just creating a new folder here where I'm going to save my DWLs. Okay, I'm going to create a file. Here I'm going to name it as universities DWL. Okay. Here what I'm going to do, I'm just going to, I'll make it as array. Okay. Let me, I'm just giving you some few things here. The university name of the university. Let me type it as XYZ. Okay. I'm just location, making it location here. I'm just giving you India. Okay. And again, I'm just going to create one more object. I'm just making it as Vandras. Just giving it a random name. Okay. And the location, let me put South Africa. Okay. Right. So this is going to be my first file. Okay. All right. So this is going to be my first file. Let me create one more file. Okay. And I'm going to name this as courses. Okay. Okay. So I'm doing the same. Okay. Here name, I'll just put the CS. Here I just put VP. So location, instead of location, I can put allocated. I'm just putting 60 here. I'm just putting allocated. I mean, okay, let me put seats. Okay, seats. Let's call it seats. You know how many seats are available. I'm just putting, let's say 50. Okay, saving it. All right. And for default condition, okay, if none of the criteria matches, so what can be the my default criteria, right? So let me put default or DWL, and here none of the condition satisfied. Okay. All right. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, here, if, okay, as I told you, I'm going to pass a parameter here, right? Query param start. Let me pass some object, okay? Equal to universities. Okay. Then I'm going to create URL. Okay. Before I've created 3 files. Okay. Based on my object, right, which is coming in query params, I'm going to select these anyone, out of these three files, whichever is matching the criteria, what I'm going to give, right? So since I am going to read it from file, right, I'm going to use read URL function. Okay. Before that, let me walk you through the differences between read function and read URL function. All right. So as you could see, read function is used to read the string and return past content. Okay. So this becomes useful when the reader cannot determine the content type by default. Okay. And it takes three parameters: string, content type, reader properties. Now, when it comes to read URL, right? This is very similar to read function, but it accepts URL as an input. Okay. And the remaining params remain the same as the read function. So there we saw string, here only the difference is URL, and the rest other two params are content type and reader properties. Okay. Now let's get into the code, right? So read URL, okay, class, like how you define, read function, right? Similar way. So DWL is where I stored my files. Okay. Then I'm going to read it in text plain. Okay. I'm just going to pass it in text plain, right? Else if, okay. Else if I'm going to loop through based on courses, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to read from courses. Okay. Else, right? I'm going to read it from default. All right, I'm going to read it from default. I'm trying to read it from all the DWL files, right? So we'll look into this scenarios one more time. If my object is universities, then I'm going to read it from universities DWL. If it is courses, then I'm going to read it from courses.dwl file. And if it is default, I'm going to read it from the default.dwl file. Okay. Let's save this. Okay. Let us run this. Okay. And before that, I'm renaming it as okay. AWL selection. All right. So I'm just running my project. That did get deploy. Before that, I'll just go to Postman and have my test case ready. So I'm going to pass universities. Okay. This is my object and this is my endpoint object and process universities. Okay. Okay, my application is deployed. Let's hit a request from Postman. Yep. So as you could see, this is coming from my universities.dw, right? Name, university details, right? Now if I query based on courses, right? Now this comes from my courses.dw. If I'm not passing anything, okay, I'm not querying it based on anything, right? So I'm going to get message, none of the conditions satisfied, right? So this is how you can select the DWL script based on a criteria using dynamic availability, right? Okay. So now if you look at the configuration one more time, there is something called parameters, right? So how instead of choosing based on the DWL file, I mean scripts, if there is, let's say if there is any querying, right, based on something you're querying your DB or Salesforce or any other external system, right? In that case, this parameter, you can play around with this parameters. Since I don't have any, any other tool, right, to showcase this DB connectivity or something, I will just take you through the documentation of MuleSoft. Okay. So this is an example, right? So let's say you are querying user ID, okay, and you are storing it in a variable. Okay. The query, whatever result is fetching, you will be storing it in a variable. And then in the dynamic evaluate component, access the user script variable to invoke the script using the provided parameter. As you could see, this is an XML, okay, of the project. So this is querying based on the user ID. And if you see the parameters, right? So based on the parameters, you're equating the name, okay, against the query parameter that is coming in from your request, right? That is username. So how that will work, right? So consider the following script stored in the examples database for entries, Islander, and one more file. Okay. So the first file is having this DWL script, and second file is having this DWL script. So if you notice, the MIME time is different for both the files. Okay. So let's say your application receives Islander, okay, as the user ID. So Mule executes the corresponding script. So it means the script will execute in the type of JSON. So if it receives the other one, okay, then the other file, I mean other response will get executed in this type, right? So this is how you can use the parameters, okay, to suit according to your needs. Okay, so this is one kind of scenario how you can make use of this dynamic evaluate. All right. If you like this video, please share and subscribe. Until next time, thank you.